And we're going to be live.
What's up, everybody? This is the 4th and Down, or 4th and Goal broadcast tonight with David. Sunday Night Spectacular. How's everybody doing? How you doing, David?
I'm good. It's been another, I will call it slow week in the offseason in the NFL. But I mean, that's what you've got. You got the combine. And if you're into that sort of thing, then there was a lot to be excited about, from the quarterbacks, the 40-yard times. There's a lot of things that you can look at, and we'll get more information as time goes by as far as the smart test and all the interviews and whether guys, there's always a set of guys that are moving up and some that are moving down, and then they compare, certain players, what's their comp in comparison to other players that are already in the league. And then, of course, you've got, the XFL is going on. So, I mean, everybody's watching those players to see if there's anybody that's worth a darn that they might want to, add to the teams. But, the league year starts March the 15th, and that'll be the beginning of free agency. All the teams still got a lot of work to do to adjust their salary caps, to keep the players that they already had, to re-sign some people. The franchise tags must be in place by the end of March the 7th. So they got the rest of today and 2 more days to take care of that. And so for me, I'm looking around the league and I think the biggest story still of the offseason, and you can agree with me or not, is the big domino. Where's Aaron Rodgers going to play, and is he going to play or not?
Oh, that's the question I think everybody wants to know. And I know I've seen reports saying the Packers have been wanting to know before free agency. And as of right now, I don't know what's taking him so long. I think he plays. I don't really see him retiring, but then again, it's been how long so far? It's been what, 2 months, almost 2 months since the Super Bowl?
No, only about 3.5 weeks, really.
Okay.
4
time lately
weeks.
just time lately, this 3 weeks feels like 4 months. I don't know if it's just because football season's over or what's going on, but it seems like we're way further than what we really are.
Well, everything's been moving so slow, it feels like it's been forever.
That is true. Now, my question is, where does he go, David?
The report is, as of right now, he's either going to retire if the Packers don't want him, if he can't make a trade to the Jets. I was told, through things that I've read and the reports, on the different sports channels, that he's ruled out the Raiders, which I thought, was a ruled out anyway because they just don't have the money, But, the Jets, we've been told in the past that Woody Johnson had offered 2 first-round draft picks. That's a lot of bravado from the owner. He wants to make a splash. He wants to get, a big-name quarterback in there. And if he joins the Jets, they're going to be dangerous. They really will. I think they got a lot of good weapons. I think the offensive line is solid, although Rodgers is a bit of a mobile quarterback. But it's on the back of that defense that will make them, such a strong contender in a stacked AFC.
Yeah. See, my question was not that I didn't think he would completely rule it out for the money aspect. I mean, obviously, I know it's there, but mine was more, I feel like you know what I mean, with Josh McDaniels trying to do the Patriot way over there, that in the front office situation over there, that's why I felt like he would rule that out, to be honest, because he wants to try to go, because Aaron Rodgers, don't matter. I mean, look at his whole career in Green Bay. His thing is he wants say in where the team goes and who they bring in and all that stuff. And I don't think Josh McDaniels, with him trying to do the Patriots way over there in Vegas with the Raiders, I don't think they would allow him to say anything. So to me, I
have
kind
his
of thought
way
it
and
would
do
have
what
been
he
a drama.
wants. That's one
Exactly.
of the big concerns. One of the big concerns I'm sure that anybody's going to have is he going to show up for the off-season work? You know, if he's going to do like he did last year, it took him nearly to mid-season for him to get on the same page with his receivers. You know, he had a lot of new receivers on the team. And, you know, I also don't think that, you know, it's not completely his fault the way that the team performed last year. I don't think that the team stuck with the running game like they should have. You know,
I
they
don't
got
think
a good
either,
running
but
game there, and I think that if they stick to that running game and they end up going to Jordan Love, if they rely on the running game and Jordan Love is serviceable, they're still a playoff team. Maybe not a contender for the title, but the running game is the basis of what they need to be doing there. Yeah, I know Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, but if you're not on the same page with your teammates, you know, it's going to be a problem no matter which team he plays for.
I mean, you could
And
definitely
so,
say that, you know, with the run game, but let's be honest, with him being so off with the receivers, it was making it easier for the defense of who the team they're playing to take the run away and let them try to throw the ball. That was the thing I thought. I don't think it was necessarily them not trying to run the ball, but when your passing game is all over and it's being a circus and not working for you, your run game is not going to really do too much for you, because at the end of the day, you got to pass the ball to keep the defense honest. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
until that passing game's going, that run, they can just blitz pretty much the whole game and they weren't losing much in the beginning of the season. But then, as you've seen him finally get with the receivers later in the year, that the running came back. You finally started hearing Aaron Jones's names. You know what I mean? Because you know, you play fantasy in our league. I was wondering, I'm like, man, Aaron Jones, I'm not even worried about playing somebody with Aaron Jones in the beginning of the season. Usually, I hate playing people that have Aaron Jones as a running back, because that dude's a beast and running.
Yeah, he's been strong for them. And they didn't utilize him early in the year. You know, I felt there was a couple of games where they played it right, and those are games that they happened to be in the lead. When they went to England, okay, they played the Giants, they were running down their throat. The Packers were doing great. They had no problems. They stopped running the ball. The Giants came back and beat them.
Yep. Yes, they did.
But as far as you know, the things that we know, we know that the Jets would like to have him, but it's going to be for how long? There's going to have to be a dialogue between him and the organization. If he's only looking to come there for 1 year, they are not, like I said earlier, it's a lot of bravado by the owner.
Well,
you're not going to give up 2 first-round draft picks for a
the
quarterback
deal is,
to play 1 season.
Here's the deal is, from what I've read about the Jets owner. The Jets owner, he wants to win right now.
Sure. Who doesn't?
Also, he don't want to get rid of Zach Wilson either. And this probably goes with why Aaron wants to go to the Jets. And this is the only one I think, because I don't care what anybody says. You can be a fan of Aaron Rodgers, but there's one thing disgusting about Aaron Rodgers as a person. And I think that comes down to any person who wants to act like they're just God. Like you should be looking up to them and almost kissing their ass once they walk through the door. And that's something
His
Aaron
shit don't
Rodgers carried
stink.
around for
Yeah.
years. He's acted on it many a times. And there's one thing that a lot of people I think are overlooking, because I've read the stories that Zach Wilson became good friends with Aaron Rodgers when he came in the league. He reached out to him and told him he's his idol. He wants to be just like him. So this could play a huge role why Aaron wants to possibly go to the Jets, because now he finally has that kid that wants to be Aaron Rodgers. He wants to be just like Aaron. And for some reason, I can see Aaron Rodgers all about that. So I think the Jets would ask Aaron to play at least 2 more years. And the worst case scenario, Aaron plays 1 year, and I think the Jets still pull the trade. I mean, it would suck to lose Aaron Rodgers after 2 years or after 1 year, but I feel like the Jets are desperate. And I hate to say this because I think he's from Michigan. I actually truly wanted him as the Lions head coach before Dan Campbell. That's to come to Detroit. Mind you, I was hoping for Robert, and I feel like this trade benefits Robert more than anybody, because that owner wants to win now. It's not happening with the quarterback he has at this moment. So I think, if anything, if you give Aaron Rodgers 1 year in New Jersey, it's still a win. Which I don't think he should be fired, because I think he's been doing a hell of a job. But we've all seen it before. Coach doing his job, doing everything he can do, but that owner's so impatient, it's see you later, goodbye. And then once you get fired in this league, it's hard to get a second chance for a while. So I think it benefits, but then you got to think of this on the back end. You already have problems with Zach Wilson and his attitude. Are you willing to trade your 2 first picks for another douchebag that could just maybe make your quarterback that you're trying to fix even more of a douchebag? And I'm just saying that speculatory. You know what I mean? Like, it might not be true, but you gotta look at it. You're already having attitude problems. Do you really go to Aaron Rodgers as the savior for your young rookie, or your young QB? I see the play. I see the play in the playoffs on the line. I see that as a sport of football. If you want to keep it the sport of football, I see that as a smart move. But every move, you have to look more than just football, because there's bigger things in the play that could benefit or hurt your team than the game of football alone. And then locker room issues are huge, because guess what? How many teams and how many sports have we seen teams should have won the championship, teams that could have won the championship, but there's like one bad apple in the locker room that destroyed the team within. It's happened numerous times.
And you're asking him to come in and be the leader.
You really got to, I mean, for money-wise, sport-wise, for the Jets, it makes sense. But does it come with long-term success? That's the big question.
Maybe they're not even looking for long-term success. I mean, there's 2 ways that this can go if he decides to go to the Jets. And that is, he plays for 1 year, maybe 2 at the most, and then he's done. Or maybe he goes there and he's got a team that actually has an owner. He's got, he's in the multimedia, basically capital of the world, being in the New York area right there. Maybe he feels a rebirth and decides, hell, I like being here. Hell, I want to play. He's an attention hound. He'll get tons of attention playing in New York. Maybe he'll decide that he's still got it. He wants to keep playing, and he decides to play there for the long term. They could get 4 or 5 years out of him. He's nowhere near done. He's nowhere near
for sure.
done.
I mean,
and if he puts the work in and goes back to doing the things that you're supposed to do in the off season, that team will be a threat for the long term if he is there. It won't matter that there's Burrow and Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, who may not actually be in the AFC come the start of this season. It may not matter, Josh Allen and, these other young guns. You get Aaron Rodgers, he comes over to the AFC and he throws a monkey wrench in everybody's plans.
Oh, yeah. I hate to say this, because we all know how I feel about Rodgers. I don't like him as a person. Be the first to tell you. But when it's strictly football, when it's strictly on the gridiron, there's no doubt that dude is not a top 5 quarterback for lifetime. He is. But to me, his biggest problems off the field is attitude. But if he goes to the Jets, KC better hope they do keep most of their players. Baltimore better hope they hold on to Lamar. There's going to be a lot of questions. I'm telling you right now, if he goes to the AFC, the AFC was already the hardest side of the NFL as of today. He goes to the Jets, and the AFC just became by far the hardest conference to make it. There is no questions about it. So, I mean, for the season, I'm excited for that. If that holds true, I will be excited just to see how the AFC will turn out at the end of the year.
Well, and he's the first domino we've talked about before. I think that the second domino is, with Aaron Rodgers kind of holding everything up, is Derek Carr. Derek Carr is the second person on the list. He met in Indianapolis at the Combine. I did meet with the Colts, but everybody and all their staffs are there. He met for a second time with the Saints. He met for a second time with the Jets. And he met for the first time with the Carolina Panthers. And so, there's 2 NFC teams there. I think, I don't think he's going to the Jets. I think the whole point to him, going to the Jets in the beginning is to drum up more money. But can the Saints afford them? They're going to have to make some adjustments with their, salary cap. Now, Carolina has cap room. Maybe, he wants to play for Frank Reich. They had a decent running game at the end of the season last year. They have a pretty decent defense. What else are they gonna bring in free agency and draft picks? Because they picked up some draft picks by trading McCaffrey to the 49ers. Now they're lower picks in the first round or whatever. But they've got cap room and draft capital, and it's a weak division. Derek Carr could decide that division. I don't see the Buccaneers improving with the loss of Tom Brady. I don't know what Atlanta's going to do, but I'd watch out for Lamar Jackson to get traded there if they can't get a deal done in Baltimore. And then, it's either New Orleans or Carolina, for Derek Carr.
But here's my thing with Derek Carr. And I know he wants the money. I know he thinks he's a starter. And don't get me wrong, I still think Derek Carr could be a quality starter in the league, in the right place and right team. I don't think he's washed up. I don't think he's a horrible quarterback. I think he's just been with Raiders way too long. Raiders were a lot like Detroit, and they still tend to those ways. I don't think they've ever really put the money into their team to actually build a real team from top to bottom. I don't think they hired the right people. I don't think the owner really cares unless he's making money. And that's his whole thing. I just believe he's a lot like Senior Ford, who owned the Lions before the kids start taking over. Don't get me wrong, his wife didn't do the best job, but the daughter,
Chris Pico says that Derek Carr is going to the Saints. And I would agree with that. I think that that's the best opportunity, for him to go to the NFC. I think that, like I said before, he was drumming up money, and I think he'll end up with the Saints at some point.
I agree. I think the Saints would be the best bet. But what I was trying to say about Carr is Carr can't, I know he wants the money, but at the same time, he has to understand too, with you being cut how you were, and I know it was wrong. I think it was wrong for him to get cut, but I don't know if teams are going to be willing to give this guy a long-term deal, big, huge money deal right off the bat. I think some of these teams might be trying to be like, look, man, you're going to sign a 1 year, 2 year deal, and we'll see what you bring to the table.
Sure, it could be a proven deal.
Years, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, if he's smart, he better, in like the team of the Saints that has the defense, has a decent defense and receivers and offense, they're just missing a accurate QB. Like, you better not get too greedy and lose that chance. Because to me, you go to the Saints, you got a clear shot at the division. You got a clear shot at the playoffs. I mean, what's the next team that can maybe stop you?
The Raiders never had a defense in all the years. They got pass rushers, but they never had a complete defense, never a top 10 defense, not even a top 20 defense. In all the years he was there, the Saints bring it. Demario Davis, Tyrann Mathieu, they've got a defense.
Oh, for sure. And that's my exactly point is, don't pass that opportunity up because, you took a team to the playoffs twice. And I understand that it's only twice, and people are probably looking at me, what do you say twice? But mind you, look what we just said. He's never had a top 20 defense. This dude's took 2 teams that should have never probably even been in the playoffs to the playoffs. Yes, I mean, he had help with his receivers and offense, but it's not much.
They had Cincinnati in Cincinnati on the ropes, okay, in the wild card round last year.
Yeah.
Okay. They had them on the ropes and couldn't deliver the knockout punch because no defense.
Exactly. Defense wins championships. And guess what? If you don't have the best defense, that's fine. You just need a defense that can stop, but your offense has to make up for that. That's the game of football.
Look at Kansas City.
Let's
okay. For example, they won the championship. Okay. Kansas City wins the championship last year, and you would never say that they have a great defense, but they have guys that can make plays. And when they make plays at the right time, they got stops. They had to get stops. They had to hold them to a field goal twice, and they did that. And by holding them to field goals and the Chiefs scoring touchdowns on offense, they crawled back into that game.
Yes, they did. I mean, like I said, good success, but I've seen them all fail due to defense. So I get exactly what you're saying. What I was going to say, and I'm glad you bring up KC because I was going to say that because don't get me wrong, KC has a good defense, but they don't got the best defense in the league because look at all the stars they have on offense. You know what I mean? Not saying that they're like, you know what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying. Like, not saying they can't build the great defense. It's just with all the stars they have on their team, it's hard. But guess what? They have the offense is so good that, you know, their defense just has to be good
Right.
because their offense can make up for that.
Yeah.
You don't have a team like be a situation where you got that, then you're not going to be good. And to me, I'm actually excited just to laugh at Vegas. I'm not even going to lie. They're just, and I have no hate towards them because, you know, they're not my rivals. They're nothing really to me. But just because they want to do stupid things, it's going to be great comedy for me to watch because I think they're going to fall flat in their face. And I believe McDaniels is going to ruin a whole other team all over again. I think he's in the process of doing that right now in Vegas. It's the same thing as Matty P for the Lions. Guess what? We were stupid too. We tried the Patriot way as well. And guess what? It failed. And I feel like a dumbass still because I was happy we got Matty P. I thought, you know, he was going to be a good coach. I thought he was smart. And guess what? It probably would have worked if the dude wouldn't be riding four-wheelers telling players how trash they are because they had a bad practice, et cetera, et cetera. Like, yeah, you won Super Bowls, but you never won a Super Bowl as a head coach. So you don't get that right just because you came from Belichick to walk in the locker room and be like, you know, I got 4 Super Bowls. I'm God. I'm taking us to the promised land. Yeah, players are not buying that shit. Because guess what? You weren't the person who ultimately won those Super Bowls. You just got told what to do by Bill Belichick and did what he told you to do and and your players won the game.
In order for what they call the Patriot way to work, you really have to be a complete front office. It's got to be the general manager. It's got to be the scouting department. It's got to be the coaches. Everybody has to buy in on that. And I don't think that any of these guys that have gone to places, you've had Romeo Crennel, you had Charlie Weiss, you've had, you know, Josh McDaniels now in his second time, Matt Patricia. The only guy, and I don't think he was trying to do the Patriot way, you know, who won, you know, and showed that he was doing something, gets fired because he's a black guy in Miami. Flores. Okay. Yeah. You know, and so.
Well, fortunately, I don't think he got fired just because of that. I think it had more as the owner wanted the tank. He wanted the #1 pick for, I don't know how many years Miami's had the first round pick so much that, you know, he wanted the first round pick. And I respect Brian for this because I know if I'm an intern head coach, if I ever got that ability, I wouldn't give a shit what the owner said to me either. I'm not going to go out there and lose because if I'm an interim head coach, you know what I mean? I'm not guaranteed, you know, my job at the end of the year. So if you're not going to keep me as a coach, I'm not going to have every team thinking I'm a dumbass as a head coach. Yeah, I want to show the rest of the league like, hey, I can do this. So I have all respect for
you cannot build a winning mentality in an organization by, you know, making dumb decisions to lose on purpose, having the people on your team run, you know, the players can tell if you're doing something stupid on purpose. All the hard work that they have gone through, all the off-season training and the programs, out there busting their tails, you know, getting hurt, all the nicks and the scratches and the damn turf burns and everything that they have gone through because they are trying to win. And you do something on purpose to, you know, that's plain as day to the players that they are not trying to win, you lose the locker room. You 100%. Know, you can't do it.
100%. And I mean, sometimes sometimes it's smart in a rebuild to try to get the first round pick. But when you've done it how many times and you still can't build your team right, and I mean, granted, it's kind of crazy how good Miami could be next year if Tua stays healthy, as we're talking about this.
Yeah.
But
That's
it's like
that's
every
going to be,
year,
and
like,
if Rodgers goes to the Jets, man, that is going to be as strong a division as everybody thought the AFC West was going to be this year.
oh, that division. That division would turn into that.
It'll be like the NFC East in the 80s.
Honestly, I hate to say this because I do like Miami's new head coach. I do like how Miami looked last year when they had healthy play at the QB. I feel like they could be a deadly team. But now put in Rodgers in that division, and now you got Buffalo with Allen, you got Rodgers with the Jets, and Miami.
And you know the Patriots are not gonna try and lose. They're trying to win.
Who's the other division and who's the other team in that division? New England.
New England, yeah, the Patriots.
So the crazy thing is, if you put Rodgers there, Miami could be fighting with New England for third place.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
So
Buffalo waited at the end, man. They got to do some things. They were saying that they think the coach and the GM in Buffalo are on the hot seat. You know, they have been real close. You know, they just couldn't get past Kansas City. And then this year, they didn't even get to play Kansas City. And so, you know, it's one of those situations where if the owner becomes, you know, not patient, look what happened to Tony Dungy in Tampa. Winning record, winning the division. They're in the thick of it all the time. But, you know, they just couldn't get over the hump. So they kick him to the curb and they bring in Gruden and they win the Super Bowl. Okay? It doesn't always work. Look what happened to Schottenheimer in San Diego. They had the number one seed. They had everything going for them. They lose at home to the Patriots in the divisional round. So they fired Schottenheimer thinking if they brought in a more offensive coach, and they went straight in the toilet instead of going to the Super Bowl.
Now we got Chris Pico in the comments. He said Lamar's going to Miami.
I don't think so. My opinion is that they're not going to trade him in conference. Miami has all their eggs in the Tua Tagovailoa basket. Okay. They're going to stick with him this year come hell or high water. And if it doesn't work out this year, they'll be in the market for a new starting quarterback next year. Lamar is in a place right now where they're not going to get a deal done before Tuesday. Okay. He doesn't have an agent. He's representing himself, him and his mom or whatever. And he wants the fully guaranteed contract. No matter what anybody says, oh, well, I didn't say that. Yeah, you did. Okay. Yeah. It's been out there since last year when they franchised you that you want tons of guaranteed money. Okay. He's been hurt the last 2 years. I don't think he should have played last year on the franchise tag. If he wanted to get this done, he should have not played last year.
Yeah, but
if they franchise tag him, which I think they're going to, and he decides he's not going to play for them, they're either going to have to acquiesce to his wishes and do what they want, he wants them to do, or it's time to start looking for a trade. There's been jokes about him being traded to Washington, okay, because it's so close there, but it's an NFC team. He'll be out of the conference. And we've talked about Carolina and Atlanta being possibilities because they've got draft capital, they've got salary cap space. That's what I think. What do you think's going to happen, buddy?
I think Atlanta would be a hot take as long as the Falcons wanted him and didn't want to go the Riddler way. I mean, because to me, you can't take that off the table for Atlanta because they did draft that kid pretty high. And you know what I mean? This year is supposed to be his first year as the starter reigns of that team.
Talk about Desmond Ritter.
Yeah. But
Right.
I mean, as a business ticket wise, money wise, and if you really want a chance at the playoffs, Jackson's sitting there. He's from Georgia. That's a hometown. I believe he's from Georgia. I know it's his hometown city, so it'd be something he could he might want, you know, from being close by. I know that was like his dream as a kid, but the question lies: do they want to just forget the rookie they drafted and take him? Washington, I could see, because I feel like Washington's a pretty desperate franchise to have something happen. They need something big, and you know they were fighting. They did pretty good. They did better than I thought they were going to do with their quarterback situation. So Jackson there might not be a bad idea. I believe that they could compete in the NFC East way better than they did this year, and I was surprised with what they could pull off this year. But here's my thing: I want to bring up Miami, even though I still agree with you that probably won't happen. But could Miami be desperate enough? Because from the rumors report coming out is they are behind Tua. But in the front office, I just read an article, I think today or yesterday on this, but they basically confirmed that the front office has real high nervous risk on Tua at the moment. They're really looking at his medical records and the way his career's been, especially after last year with all the head injuries. They have some questions going around that front office. So here's my thing: if Baltimore happens to reach out to Miami, or Miami happens to reach out, because Jackson with Hill and Waddle might be the best thing for him, so he might put that in. Would Miami be willing to trade Tua to Baltimore to Jackson and draft picks? And that way, now you get Jackson. Now you can relax a little bit because he hasn't had so much head injuries. His injuries have been like broken ribs, bad knees, and a sector in that case. But then you let Baltimore get Tua, which for them, they still have to worry about the health. But if he can stay healthy, they might be all right and still be able to compete for a playoff spot. Now, like I said, I still don't think it happened. I just kind of thought of this in the last couple minutes, like they might be able to pull a blockbuster, and Baltimore might look past that it's AFC if they can get Tua and a couple first-round picks. Because either way, for that to happen and then to have to risk the health on the QB, I still think you're going to have to give us some high draft picks if that trade ever went through. But I don't think it'll happen.
No, no chance. Absolutely no chance. Miami doesn't have any first-round draft picks.
Oh yeah, see, I forgot
they lost their first-round draft pick for tampering with Tom Brady. Okay, and their other high picks, like a second rounder this year, I believe that belongs to Kansas City for the Tyreek Hill trade. And so they don't have the draft capital. Baltimore, the entire league knows Tua Tagovailoa is damaged goods.
Oh, for sure.
And so there's no way. I don't believe anybody would trade for him. Okay. I don't care how desperate a franchise is. The word's out on him. One more concussion and he may decide to retire. You know, he's taken classes with, I forget who they said it was, learning how to fall so that he doesn't land on his head. because he's planning to get sacked now. Okay. And when you
at
start
least he's
thinking about that, when you start thinking about how am I going to fall when they hit me, that's bad news right there.
I mean, it is bad news, but this is what I'm going to say to that. At least he's trying everything he could possibly do.
Well, yeah,
get
I
better.
mean, he's not going to get paid if he doesn't play. You know, everybody's
for
trying to
sure.
get to that second contract. He has weapons around him. They have a decent defense. And so, you know, Miami is a threat if he's healthy. If he's not healthy, they're not a threat anymore. You know, they're just not. They got to have a quarterback. Now, you know, McDaniel can put together a, he can put together some kind of a running game, you know, with all the running backs that they have. You know, that's what his forte was in San Francisco when he was the offensive coordinator there. But you got to be able to pass the ball. You can't just run. Or what happens to you is the same thing that happened to the 49ers against the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. You have to be able to pass.
Yes. Don't be Kyle Shanahan, because like I hate to say this, like 49ers are great. They're a good team with Shanahan, but I'm not sold that he can win a Super Bowl, because that dude should have 2 Super Bowls. One with Atlanta as OC, and and I don't care what anybody says, he gave that game away.
Yeah.
I
mean, you could say there's a lot of bad luck involved. You know, you could say there's a lot of bad luck involved, but when you look at it, he got beat by Tom Brady and he got beat by Patrick Mahomes.
Well, the only thing I'm saying is, look at the Miami. They killed New England in the first half with running the ball. What did they do in the second half? They stopped running the ball. They ran the ball, but not as much as they did in the first half, and they changed the whole play up. And they lost. Go back to that KC Super Bowl as him as a head coach.
Same thing. Stopped running the football.
So it's 0-2 in Super Bowls, and you made the same mistake not once but twice.
Yeah.
So I don't have much faith in him as actually pulling a Super Bowl out. But I'm not going to take it from that guy. He can win you a division, he can win you games, and he can make you a hell of a team. It's just he, as a coach, got to get better.
Well, I know we wanted to talk about the franchise players or the tags that are possibly coming up. You know, just list them off and talk about it real quick. The only player that actually has been officially tagged at this point is Daron Payne. He's the defensive tackle for the Washington Commanders. And so he'll have to sign the franchise tender, or they'll be able to work out a long-term deal before, I think it's July is the deadline. If they don't work out a deal by then he'll either have to play on the tag or sit out. And I don't expect that that'll happen. I expect they'll probably get a long-term deal done unless there's a trade involved. But they listed online the following players are expected to be tagged and what it means, basically for each team. The first one is Tony Pollard is going to get tagged by the Cowboys, which means that the player that was tagged last year for the Cowboys, Dalton Schultz, he is not going to get the tag this year. They're trying to keep Pollard. They don't want him to go somewhere else. They saw his value at the running back position this last year. I think it is a mistake to let Schultz leave. I think he's one of their primary weapons. Dak really trusts him when he gets in a tough spot, but you don't want to lose Pollard, even though he's going to be coming off of an injury.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense, and I hate to say it, I agree. I think Schultz is a pretty decent tight end for the Cowboys, and Dak trusts him and likes him. But at the end of the day, I mean, you cannot lose Pollard. I mean, you
Yeah,
can't.
and they can't afford to pay everybody.
You-
They're not in a very good salary cap situation.
You can replace
So,
Zeke at his age. You can't replace Pollard right now.
yeah, and I mean Zeke he needs to take a pay cut. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets cut completely. You
I
know,
think if I'm Zeke, I would hope to be cut, and I would hope to go to a team on a prove it deal, show what you got in the tank. You're going to be a third down back. You're not going to play every play, and just go with it. I think he still has plenty of football left. I think he can still play at a good level. I just don't think he's your number one back, and that's what Dallas is realizing. And that's why
can I
Dallas
tell
is for
you
sure
can I
their
tell you
franchise
where I
power.
think he goes? If Zeke were to get cut,
Where do you think he goes?
he'd be perfect in the mold of a Mark Ingram and be the backup in Denver for Sean Payton.
Honestly,
same size, same kind of, they have a little burst at the beginning and then they're just basically a battering ram after that. No speed down the field, but they could get the hard yards, score the, get the 3rd and 1s, the 4th and 1s, the goal line touchdowns for Denver. I think that'd be a good match for him to go to Denver and play for Sean Payton.
I'm not going to disagree with you. I think honestly that would be the smartest thing for him to do. I mean, think about it. Sean Payton's made a hell of a career for you just said his name, Mark Ingram.
Mark Ingram.
You know what I mean? He's made a hell of a career out of that guy playing that role. So if Zeke still wants to play, and I hate to say this, even though I think Denver is still quite a bit of years away from it, but I still think you have a better chance to win something there than Dallas. I'm just saying. Because
Dallas is kind of snake bit.
Here's my thing with Dallas. I think Dak Prescott could be a good QB, but I think he's a system QB. I don't think he's a QB. I don't think he's going to succeed how Dallas has used him. I think if you look, the kid can play great, but then you get to the big games and it's just a wrap. Everybody knows what he's going to do. Every time they make the playoffs, it gets blown up, and it's always, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At this point, I'm starting to wonder, when is Dallas going to sit there and be like, all right, either we got to get this kid a better coach, or we got to move on. I mean,
they missed the boat this year. If he wanted Sean Payton, he could have had him this year, but he would have had to have fired his coaching staff. And I don't think he wanted to lose Dan Quinn at the defensive coordinator spot, because Dan would have been like, hey, how come I can't be the head coach here? Now they lost their offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore. He went to the Chargers. And so I don't know if they're changing the whole system to go to Mike McCarthy's system or not. But if they are, we'll find out whether your theory is right that he's a system quarterback, because they've been running the Jason Garrett, Kellen Moore system the whole time he's been there.
Yeah. I mean, that's a stretch, because right now I feel like the Cowboys are just the old Green Bay Packers. That's what I truly feel. Because I mean, that's what McCarthy.
Well, then you better hope they don't come play Detroit.
I mean, you know what I mean, though. Like, don't get me wrong, McCarthy had a pretty good coaching career in Green Bay. I mean, it was for sure a winning one. But for the last few years before they fired him out of Green Bay, it was the same story. Win the North, go to the first round, play the 49ers, get their ass kicked, go home. Repeat the next year. Repeat. So, I mean, that's that's just what it honestly looked like since he's been there. It's just been the same Green Bay scenario. I mean, we'll see if he brings the system in. We'll see if he still got it. I mean, but Jerry Jones, I feel like, is that owner too. As long as he's making the playoffs, win it right there in the division, and filling the stadium and making boo-hoo bucks from their fan base, I think he truly don't give two fucks if he wins the Super Bowl or not.
Well, I think he does want to win. You know, it's just snake bit. But, you know, let's move on to the next guy on the list that's most likely to be tagged, and that is Josh Jacobs of the Raiders. Now, they didn't have to do this, but they declined his fifth-year option last year. And so because of that, you know, he's become a free agent. And he played lights out this year. He led the league in rushing. He was the Raider offense a lot of times when they were struggling in their passing game. And what that means for the Raiders is that their other big-time free agent, who is one of their inside linebackers, middle linebacker, Denzel Perryman, is going to get a chance to test free agency.
Do you think he leaves? For sure. You don't think Dallas tries to work out a deal? You don't think he might take a cat-friendly deal?
Perryman?
Yeah.
Just depends on if he's happy there, you know. I mean, just because they don't franchise him doesn't mean he won't re-sign, you know, but he'll take offers. You know, he'll take offers from other teams, and there are teams that need, you know, somebody who is a tackling machine. Now, he's coming off of an injury, so he may not be in as much demand as he could have been, and maybe that's how come, you know, they're betting that, you know, he isn't going to leave. You know, they're putting all their eggs on Josh Jacobs' basket, you know, but I could see him maybe joining the Bears. I could see him possibly going to maybe someplace like the Falcons, you know, a team that needs a tackling machine on defense. You know, maybe one of those teams will fit the bill for him.
I mean, if he just happens to see this broadcast, he can come to Detroit.
Do what?
I say, if he just happens to go on YouTube and see our broadcast and he watches it, hey, you come to Detroit, we'll take you.
I thought you were going to draft a linebacker.
I'm good with that. I'd rather honestly draft a linebacker, which actually brings me up because I don't know if anybody's seen it, but I did share an article on Fourth and Goals, you know, that there's a chance for the Lions to maybe take Penny Sewell's little brother as linebacker. He's a pretty good kid coming out of Oregon. Not a bad linebacker at all. And that would be pretty
Is he graded as a first round guy, or is he more of a middle rounds?
I think he was projected, I think I've seen first round, maybe second round. I can't remember I don't remember in the article what round he was projected, but
yeah.
But I want to say,
well, you guys got two first rounders.
I think they were talking about a fourth round. Well, for sure, we definitely got the draft picks to get them, and I think they would be pretty cool. You know what I mean? To have two brothers and to be in Detroit for a long time because they're both young. You know, you lock them up for 5 years. You know what I mean? Obviously, big brothers, you're gonna have to pay that guy because he's one hell of a tackle, and you know that's money well spent. Especially when he can get out and catch a screen pass and get that first down for you.
Well, now the next guy.
I still think that's probably one.
The next guy on the list of most likely to be franchised, if he really is asking for $45 million, which he's crazy, is Daniel Jones. And that means that they're going to lock him up with the franchise tag because they couldn't get a deal done with him by the end of Tuesday. And that means Saquon Barkley is going to get the opportunity to test free agency. You know, if they could get a deal done with Daniel Jones, then they would franchise Saquon Barkley, but you can't franchise them both.
Sorry, repeat that. I'm sorry.
Daniel Jones is going to get the franchise tag in New York. You can't franchise both him and Saquon Barkley. If Daniel Jones were to get a contract done in time, they would use the franchise tag on Barkley. But the quarterback at this point is more important than the running back when it comes to locking up, you know, a franchise player.
You don't see the Giants maybe trying to weasel their way in maybe an Aaron Rodgers trade over the Jets? I mean, if they can keep Barkley, you could maybe intrigue him to go there. But I don't think they're in a position where they want to lock down a quarterback that's only going to be there 1 or 2 years.
Well, like we talked about earlier, it's the Jets or the Packers or nobody, you know, for him. So,
yeah.
You know, that there it's, you know, just I don't think that Daniel Jones is worth the kind of money that he is asking for. Yes, he played a poor man's version of Josh Allen this year under the Brian Daboll offensive system. But he still turns the ball over. You know, when he plays a quality opponent, he just gets flabbergasted and throws the ball to the wrong people. Now, maybe it's because they don't have a very good offensive line, although I thought it was better this year because they were able to run the football with Saquon Barkley. Now, if they can lock up both of these guys, you know, and then add to their team, then they're looking good for a playoff spot maybe going into this next year. But I think they're going to lose Saquon because of the demands of the contract money that Daniel Jones wants, and they're not going to be able to franchise Saquon. They have to franchise Daniel Jones and maybe have him play on the franchise tag.
And see, and this is what always boggles my mind is, you know what I mean? And I mean, if you're like Aaron Rodgers type caliber QB, if you're top 5 for sure, top 10 in the league. Now I understand why maybe you'd be asking for this type of money and might not give a crap if you lose a running back. But for Daniel Jones to be asking for this money and making it where he might not have Barkley in the backfield, even if he does stay in the Giants, because of this demand of money he's asking for, it's pretty stupid on his part. I'm just saying, you got lucky. There were a lot of reports were last offseason he was going to be cut or dealt. You know, there was a lot of rumors about that.
They declined his 5th-year option. Yeah.
And he got to stay, play the whole year, you know what I mean, almost go to the playoffs. And now you got another chance to stay. Okay, you want big money, that's fine. Well, why don't you take the 1-year deal for the most money you can go get with keeping Saquon Barkley, go back up what you just did this year and improve and the mistakes you made. Then ask for the $45 million contract. But now you're going to do this, and if they choose to keep Barkley, because they might just say, screw you, keep Barkley on the franchise tag and let Daniel go and go from a rookie. Or sign somebody else in free agency. That's a real possibility if they don't choose to do this. Saying, and then guess what? Then Daniel Jones is then you're stuck as a free agent. And I don't see nobody really giving you 45 mil, and you might get a starting job somewhere else, but that team's probably going to be in a way shittier position than what you could have if you just stay put and play smart and do the best thing for your career. But you know, and that's the thing. These players think the best thing they could do for their career is to take a big payday. but it's like it's not, because you got to win. If you want the big paydays, you have to win. You might get one big payday, but guess what? If you don't win, what's going to happen? You're eventually going to get cut. And then you're eventually going to be right back where you were before the big payday. I don't know. I know if I was a player, I'm going to try to play the smartest way. Play as long as I can. That way I make the most money I can for a long period of time. I wouldn't be looking for a huge lot of money right up front. You know, now if I got worth it, if I'm top 5, top 10 in whatever position I played, that's a different ball game. If I could bring that to the table and not have to question where my future is going to be in 5 years, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? If I know if I get cut from this deal, I know for a fact someone's going to pick me up. You know what I mean? That's a different outlook. But being Daniel Jones' shoes, I'd be like, man, just give me 25 mil a year. That's it. Just give me 25 mil. I'll be happy. Because if you can't live off of 25 mil for a 1 or 2 year deal, there's something wrong.
Well, you know, we're in a different position as fans than they are as a player. You know, they take into account a lot of more things than we do. You know, they could be injured and be done just like that. You know, you can count your chickens, you know, before they hatch and say, hey, I'm going to make it all the way through this contract and I'm going to get all this money and I'm going to do this and that and I'm going to get my incentives. But you don't know that. Look at DeMar Hamlin. Okay, look at DeMar Hamlin.
But this is how
one freak play away from dying on the field. Okay. And then you say, oh, well, I'd just take 25 million. Yeah, but after the government gets theirs and the state gets theirs and there are people in your life and you could say, oh, I wouldn't help everybody, but everybody and their brother wants a piece of the pie. They helped you get there. They've been waiting on you to succeed so that, you know, you can take care of everybody that took care of you all these years, you know. The mentality of the family and the friends and the agents and, you know, all their homeboys, you know, everybody that they've got.
And that's their problem.
Well, listen, it would be your problem if you're the player. Okay. You say that you know, you're trying to say what you would do, but you're not in that position. Okay, and that's what brings me to these players that are getting franchise tagged. Okay, they're getting franchise tagged because they want the guaranteed money. They want it to be guaranteed that they're going to get a lump sum up front so that they feel protected and that they are safe. And it doesn't matter if they get hurt on the field because they're taken care of now.
Oh, for sure.
I want $60 million up front to put my name on this piece of paper. I'm going to sign for 5 years and however many millions of dollars. Okay. Of the $60 million, they're in a different tax bracket. Just cut it in half. It's only 30. You got to pay 10% of that to your agent.
Oh, for sure. I mean, well, we all know New York is the highest tax.
Yeah. Taxes in California and New York are outrageous.
But my thing is only when I say this, I understand what you're saying where these players are at. They got to take care of their families, And if I'm the player, I want to be in that position because guess what? The only people getting taken care of by me personally, my mom, my dad, my brother and sister. And then maybe the one best friend I have in my whole life that I consider as my brother. Other than that, I don't care if I knew you in high school. I don't, and I love my family, but like my aunt, my cousins, all that. If I got enough, and you know, Christmas I can hook you guys up with something that break the bank. That's one thing. But I'm not buying you houses. I'm not paying for cars. I'm not doing none of that. I don't care if I was 5 and you took me to the corner store. No.
Right.
I'm not in bed with you. I don't owe you nothing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The only thing I owe you is to be a good family member. And that's how I would run. That's how I run my daily life. The only people I jump for is my immediate family. Because guess what? That's my immediate family. They would do the same for me. Other than that, I'll help you out if you really need it, and I can. But I'm not going to drop everything and just blow stuff off for anybody. And that's why I think the NFL, and honestly, that's why I think the NFL, when you draft, and this is a good point we brought up, because I think when you're a rookie, you should be obligated to somebody to manage your money for you. At least coach you, give you some education.
Well, I think that's why they have the NFL Rookie Symposium is to get these people the information that they need, but as they get drafted into the league and before they sign their contracts, you need to listen to these guys about women and about drugs and alcohol and about finances and about all these other things. They have that Rookie Symposium, and I know that they have a lot of really good Hall of Fame players that go there to tell these guys and to try to look out for them and their futures.
Yeah, because I mean, like I said, 25 mil. I could go blow my knee out. I could sign a deal, 25 deal. Maybe not in New York with the tax bracket, but say I'm somewhere else with not that big of a tax bracket, and say I pocket after taxes, agents, and all that, I still made $16 million a year. My career's over. I can live my whole life on 16 mil because there's investment.
Especially if you move away somewhere where the cost of living is a lot lower.
Exactly. And guess what? I have $16 million. I have enough money to start a couple businesses that I can make successful. Maybe not do it all at once. Start with one, then work my way to another one. You know what I mean?
Chris, you keep talking. I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll be right back.
Okay. But you know what I'm saying? As a player, you're making this kind of money. You can literally, if you do the right things, you can live your whole life. But a lot of these players, they just want the fast money. They just want the big payday. They want to be on ESPN. You know what I mean? I get it. I mean, who don't want to make $45 million a year? That's a lot of cash to make, But at the same time, as a player and that nature, Daniel Jones, if that's me, I'm playing smart. I want Barkley in the backfield. I want to keep as many weapons I can possibly keep around me. That way I can succeed and then possibly be the long-term starting quarterback. To me, you lose Barkley, that really hurts Daniel Jones if he chooses to stay. Because Barkley is a huge key to that team. I mean, look at the Titans. Look at the Titans before their quarterback got hurt. After Henry was done and banged up, look at Henry banged up at the Titans. Tennessee don't become a good team no more. You put Henry back with the Titans and the quarterback and their offense, they're a hard team. They're a good team again. It works like that. When you don't got a top 5, top 10 QB playing in your franchise, you have to rely on your running backs, your receivers, your O-line a lot more than you would have to if you got Aaron Rodgers in the backfield. Not saying you're going to win championships that way, but when you don't have that type of QB behind them, you have to play to your strength of abilities. You can't take a big part of your ability away from your team and expect you, and then think you're going to go to the playoffs.
Did I miss much?
No, I just finished what I was saying about player management money, and then I went into I used like look at the Titans. you take Henry out of the picture with Tannehill and their offense, and they instantly become a mediocre offense. You put Henry back in to that offense, and they become a top 10 offense. So that's what I feel like. That's exactly what's going on in New York right now. If you take Barkley away, you got a mediocre team. You keep Barkley with Daniel Jones like they did last year, they got a chance. Because you got to play to your
you got to hope you
abilities.
replace them with somebody that you could draft or that you bring in through free agency that's a little bit less expensive.
Oh, for sure. And Barkley, and I'm not gonna say, I was just watching the highlights of the combine. Some of these rookie running backs coming to the league, they're looking pretty good.
You can find running backs all throughout the draft. I mean, look at Kansas City picked up Pacheco, this year in the 7th round out of Rutgers.
Yeah, I didn't even know who he was.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to take him in fantasy football late, and I'm like, that dude will never see the field. Ha! Boy, was I wrong.
Yeah, because you know who I took? I took your starter, Edlissa here. I was excited when I got him. I was like, all right, this kid was a beast last year.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I'm like, who the hell is this Pacheco guy? Like he really just fucked my fantasy season right up the piper. Because then I had to run into frenzy and make some trades that cost me, some quality receivers to get a better running back because he wasn't working out as my starter and I thought he was. Who else I took? I took somebody else that really kind of went down this year in fantasy. I forget who it was now. But
I said that's all right. That's okay. So next on the list here, we've got a quarterback in Geno Smith. Now, Seattle's got a high draft pick. It's expected that they will franchise tag him, but that doesn't mean that he's going to be, their quarterback for the long term. It might be a situation where they could franchise him this year, not necessarily looking for a long-term deal, franchise him again next year, but during this season, they can draft them their quarterback of the future if they want and groom him behind Geno Smith, kind of like the, Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes situation. Or if you think further back than that, Steve McNair sat for 2 years behind Chris Chandler for the Oilers/Titans.
Yeah. I think I'm going to say this. I think Geno should at least be franchise tagged, and he should at least get another chance to start. I mean, he did take them guys to the playoffs.
Yeah.
He played way better than I expected. I think he played better than
I thought he would too.
And guess what? If you don't want him, I understand. Geno's older, so I get you might not want to lock long term with Geno Smith. I totally 100% get that, and I'm fine with it. But like you said, it'd be a perfect opportunity to maybe sign him maybe see if you can't sign him for a 2-year deal. If not, franchise tag him for 1 or 2 years if need be. Let the rookie sit, learn the offense, and then pick up. Because Geno's shown you if you can keep that team together and add some pieces to it, he can get you to the playoffs. And that's all you got to do is make the playoffs. And you know what I mean? You keep the winning culture going. You keep the positive in the locker room. And then when the rookie's ready, kind of like the Mahomes deal, it could take off just like that. I mean, it did it for Kansas City. Alex Smith did what he needed to do. Mahomes came in the following year, picked it right up from there. So, I mean, they're actually sitting, I think, out of a team that needs a quarterback and probably needs a rookie quarterback. You ask me, the Seahawks actually set themselves up pretty. And how things turned out, because I hate to say this, if Geno turned out to flop this year It was horrible. They wouldn't be sitting this nice in a rebuild, if you ask me. Would be since Gino looked so good and played so good for him last year, they're actually looking like the best team coming in a rebuild still. Because they're
Yeah,
still
they could have
making
went the other
playoffs.
way. Russ
For
and
sure.
Denver, could have played great, and then ended up with a lower pick, and yet their team was bad in Seattle and wouldn't have had the benefit of a good pick.
Exactly. And you know what I mean, kind of like the Rams for Detroit. I didn't think we were getting a sixth pick of the draft from the Rams.
Yeah.
I planned for it to be 20, even 28, maybe even 30. Shit, who knows? Maybe even 32.
Right.
That's what I was planning for. Okay, we're gonna have one probably higher because of our record, and then we're gonna have one at the tail end of the draft. But hey, shit worked out perfect for us, and we got one in the 18th and one at 6. I'm happy with that because the fact is, because there could be teams that want to trade up. So this could be an optionally draft. And guess what? If the Giants don't franchise tag Daniel Jones and they use it at Barkley and they need a QB, I've heard the Bears want to trade the first round pick. I've heard the Lions are interested in seeing what they could do with the 6th round or with the 6th pick of the draft that they might want to move down to. So the Giants, if you need a QB this year, immediately call one of us. Sure, we can work a deal out.
The next guy on the list is the safety from Cincinnati. That's Jesse Bates. He's expected to be franchise tagged. They've got plenty of cap room in Cincinnati for now, because the time is going to be coming where they're going to have to re-sign Joe Burrow, and then they'll have to re-sign, Chase the year after that. But right now they've got plenty of cap room. If they don't want to lose him, they don't have to. He's been hanging around some of his friends in Atlanta. I think he'd like to sign with the Falcons, but they're probably going to franchise tag him there in Cincinnati.
And guess what? That is a no-brainer. You don't want to lose you don't want to lose Bates. That dude's a beast in the defense. Me personally as an owner or GM, I would not want to lose that guy. So I don't see a problem with that. But I will say, I will add to this. I've seen Joe in an interview, and he already said that he wants a deal kind of like Mahomes, where it's a really long-term deal, and it breaks down over the years because he wants all of his weapons around him.
Yeah. All right, the next guy on the list is Orlando Brown Jr., the left tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, they franchise tagged him last year, so if they franchise him again this year, he'll get a 20% bump in salary. And this is something that we have talked about here in the Kansas City Chief fan base area. We don't feel like Orlando Brown is worth the kind of money that he is asking for. Yes, he didn't give up any sacks in the Super Bowl, but we feel that was because of the way that the ground was overwatered. If you look at how many pressures and hurries he allowed throughout the season, Patrick Mahomes was under duress a lot because of his inability to stop the speed rushers on that side of the ball. And so, he gave up quite a few bad plays last year. Yes, he was better this year, but can they afford to pay him $25 million a year? And I don't think that they can. I would prefer that they did not. I think that they can draft a left tackle, or they could trade for someone that's less expensive that can do the job equally as well as Orlando Brown has. And here is the thing we just talked about, Jesse Bates. Okay. Jesse Bates is going to be franchise tagged. We expect Orlando Brown Jr. to be franchise tagged. And what's one of the big problems that Cincinnati has had? It's with their offensive line. Well, how about trading a franchise player for another franchise player? Because the word is Kansas City is not going to be able to afford L'Jarius Sneed if they have to re-sign Orlando Brown Jr. They're not going to be able to keep Juju. They're going to lose McKinnon. They've got Thornhill. There's a lot of players on that team that want paid. Chris Jones has a contract, and now he wants to be at least the second highest paid defensive tackle in football. You can't pay them all. The Chiefs knew that last year when they traded Tyreek Hill. Paying a safety at a franchise rate is much less than paying a left tackle. And they think that there's a possibility that this could be a swap here of franchise players. Cincinnati would sign Orlando Brown Jr. to the kind of contract that he wants. Kansas City would sign Jesse Bates to the kind of contract that he wants, and it would save him somewhere in the neighborhood of $10 million against the cap in just this year alone.
Yeah. I mean, do you think they could work a deal like that though?
I don't know. I mean, that's something that, Cincinnati, they can go ahead and sign him if they want, but do they value the left tackle more? Okay. Do they think that they played against him when he was in Baltimore?
Yeah.
He has grown in experience. He played right tackle originally, but he wants that left tackle money. That was the whole point of him coming to Kansas City, is because he wanted to move him to left tackle. He wants the left tackle money. And, I just think that while some teams would be willing to pay that, I don't think the Chiefs are going to be willing to pay it. I think that if they could get a deal done with somebody to move him, that they would, because then that'll open up the money that they need. They have 12 draft picks, believe it or not. A team that just won the Super Bowl has 12 picks in this year's draft, which means that they can use some to trade up, to get higher quality players in their mind. They can use that draft capital to trade for players with other franchises and bring in players that are inexpensive. Look what they did with Kadarius Toney. Okay. Here's a guy that's supposedly disgruntled, can't stay healthy. He's in New York. They know they're probably going to lose Mecole Hardman. And so they replaced him in advance by trading away, I think it was a third-round draft pick for a former first-rounder. Makes a huge play in the Super Bowl with the punt return. He's going to be in his first complete offseason with the Chiefs. He'll be a starting wide receiver for him this next year.
Yeah, for sure. My question is, was it Brew? I can't remember. Was it Brown or is it Trent Williams that kind of flirted around that they might be ready for retirement? I can't remember what.
Say that again. I was reading the comment.
Brown with your left tackle.
Yeah, Brown was the left tackle this year.
Yeah. Have you heard any reports that he was kind of flirting around with retirement at all? Or was that?
Oh, no, he's too young for that.
Okay, yeah. They must be Trent Williams. For some reason, I was thinking it was him. I don't know why, but that was Trent.
Ron, I understand that you think that Orlando Brown is worth the money. Left tackles are worth it. They are.
For sure.
But, when you look at the salary cap situation of the team, they have to make decisions that they wouldn't necessarily, if money was no object, I'm sure they'd just go ahead and sign him. But you got to maintain that salary cap. There are certain people on the team that are young enough that they can get by on the contracts they've got now because they haven't been paid yet. And you have to pick and choose which ones of the high price talent you plan to keep. They've got a really decent first round draft pick here this year. You know, they've got a couple of twos. They've got like 3 threes. They got a couple of fours. They can move up in the first round. They can draft themselves another offensive lineman to take over, or they can trade for another player to fill in. Okay. The Chiefs want to win each and every year. Right now, they're in like dynasty mode, and the new Patriots. Everybody hates them because they win all the time now. But when they're working on building their team, they've got cachet now to make decisions that other teams wouldn't because they just won the championship. And so they're going to end up jettisoning some players, I can't say it. They're going to be getting rid of some players that the fans want to keep, that the team would like to keep. They're just not going to be able to afford everybody. And they're going to have to make some choices, in free agency, with trades, with their draft capital, and with their franchise and transition tags that are for the best interest of the long-term outlook of the team, not just, we're going for it now this next year because it'll come back and bite them, kind of like what happened to the Rams. They threw everything in to win the previous year, and look what happened to them this year. A couple guys get hurt, and the whole team falls apart.
Exactly. I mean, that's the hard part of being good. And I just want to bring this up around that topic because as much as I hate it, you are right. KC is definitely in a dynasty in the NFL now. There's no questions about it. But even though Mahomes' deal is pretty decent for how big it is, I'm really want to see how the future years really play out, because you know what Tom Brady never gets credit enough is if you look at his salary that he made with New England for most of his career.
Yeah, he didn't take a big amount. Yeah.
He got paid good, but he took less to win. And he knew by winning as many Super Bowls as he did, he would make more money off the field than on the field, because every sponsor, every commercial, everybody wants a piece of you. So now we're in a new era where these quarterbacks are going to pay this crazy money, because paying anybody what they're paying Patrick Mahomes. Not saying he's not worth it, but you can argue with daily until you tell me it's worth it. Because I don't think any human, I don't care what game, what sport, what it is worth the kind of money he's getting paid. But hey, at least he's backing his mouth up with his game and bringing his team into the championship and helping them seal the deals. That's one thing you guys can say you got out of the deal, and so it's not as bad. Because can you imagine if he just turned out to be really sucky and then went nothing after you gave him all that money? You know how bad that would look? That would be bad,
That's what happened to Aaron Rodgers and the Packers this year.
For sure.
He had to have that $50 million contract. The Chiefs and Mahomes, they kind of did it right because they got ahead of it. Okay. They gave him a 10-year contract. Okay. For the kind of money that they knew it was going to be, in advance. There is like 4 or 5 quarterbacks already that make more than Mahomes. And by the time this next season begins, there's going to be 3 or 4 more. You can count on it.
Yep.
You're looking at Lamar Jackson. I wouldn't think they'd pay Daniel Jones more than Patrick Mahomes. But I've been wrong before.
Well,
He's up for a
seen
contract.
stupider deals.
Okay. Yeah, we've seen some crazy stuff, you know. But you got the other players that are going to be signing elsewhere. What's Jimmy G worth to somebody? Okay. What's he going to be worth to somebody? He's going to get a $40 million contract somewhere, and people are going to go, holy shit.
I mean, this is all I got to say about Jimmy G. And I just want to make this opinion. I just want to put it this way. If I'm Baltimore and I have a top 10 O-line in the league, I'm not sure where their O-line's linked. I'm just kind of speaking off that. If you have a good O-line, I would rather pay Jimmy G $40 million a year for maybe 1 or 2 years than Lamar Jackson $230 million guaranteed. Just saying. Because I know if you protect Jimmy G, he can get you to the big show. He can win you the games you need to win. I wouldn't.
He's played well when he's healthy.
But I'm not paying I wouldn't want to pay no more $230 million for someone who's proven that he's going to run the ball. And then when the big games come at the end of the season, guess what? He might be there, but he's going to be probably banged up.
He puts himself in harm's way, and that's the problem. He puts himself in harm's way, and that's the problem. While he is spectacular and he won his MVP on the strength of his ability to run the football and be an accurate passer, okay, it was all about him looking like the modern version of Michael Vick out there, okay? He took him to the playoffs. He was spectacular. He was doing things that the current fans hadn't really seen before, and that's why he won the MVP. But ever since he's done that, he's been nicked, ankle, toe, knee, and it's going to continue to be that way. And the older he gets, he's going to lose his speed.
Exactly. Okay? That's why I always bring this
speed. Up. He's one shot away from being out for the year with an ACL or an Achilles,
And then that's why I always bring this up, especially a kid from Atlanta that idolized Michael Vick. Look at Michael Vick after prison with the Eagles. That was the best Michael Vick to play in NFL. You know why? Because he finally learned how to just stay in the pocket, use that cannon arm, run when he had to, and was way better. Now, the Eagles just put a better team around him then. They might have got a Super Bowl.
Coaching.
For sure, coaching was the issue. But I'm just trying to point out, that was the best football Vic played was with the Jets and the Eagles as a quarterback. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going to take it away. I loved watching him play when I was a little kid in Atlanta. The kid was exciting. But what did it get him? Nowhere. It didn't get him nothing. A couple of playoffs, pushes, and then by the time he would meet Green Bay in the conference finals, he had, or not the conference finals, but division round, he was playing with 3 broken ribs, and they got murdered in Green Bay. And they had the better team that year. Yeah. I think that might have been one of Favre's. No, actually, I think it was the first round. My bad. When I think about it, so I think that was Favre's one of Favre's last years, I believe. So, who else is on the list?
My last guy on the list of potential franchise players is the tight end from Jacksonville, former New York Giant, Evan Ingram. He played really well in the Doug Peterson offense. He was a safety valve for Trevor Lawrence this year. And, they're going to franchise him. They've got salary cap room in Jacksonville. And so I don't think it's going to be a problem getting him to be on the team. I think that they could probably get a long-term contract with him. Would be a good idea.
I think you got to, if you can't sign him, if you can't, it's going to take time, franchise tag him, but I think you can't lose him. You guys,
He was a weapon.
Jacksonville,
He was a weapon for him.
exactly. And the only way I'm really saying it, other than that he was a weapon for him, was because Jacksonville finally took that step, I think, as a franchise. The first true step of actually being a good team and not being there by just luck. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'll never take nothing from Blake Bortles just because, he was a professional with everything that happened there and how his career played out. But, the year he almost took them to the Super Bowl and they played New England and almost beat New England, I hate to say it, that whole season for Jacksonville was just a Cinderella story. Every games went their way and they got there. But then the following year, Jacksonville went back to Jacksonville. This year, I can say, as a fan, is the first time I looked at Jacksonville and been like, oh shit, these guys are going to be no joke. They're actually going to be 10 times better next year. And honestly, they kind of blew my mind because I knew they were hot. And then I went to the game this year in Ford Field in Detroit, and when we stomped them, and I was like, okay, they're not that good. They just got a little hot streak, because that's what I thought it was, because we both kind of did it at the same time, you know what I mean? So I was like, okay, one of these teams are showing their true colors, and one of these teams might be shown false colors. And that's how I looked at it. And then when we played them and we stomped them, I was like, okay, Jacksonville was a little easier to win than I thought, because I went to the game preparing myself to maybe lose. I'm not
right.
That's how I walked into the stadium. I said, I'm just going to enjoy this game. I'm going to have fun with my family. Then I'm here because I went with my dad, my brother, my dad, my sister, and my brother-in-law. So I'm going to have fun watching the game in person. And then we stomp them. And then go home. I'm like, yeah, I overthought Jacksonville. And then bam, here they are at the end of the season making the playoffs. I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah. Well, and they're going to be even better this next year, because they're going to listen. They haven't reinstated him as far as I know, but Calvin Ridley is going to be there, and they're going to have him, and they're going to have. Hopefully, what they will do is they will have themselves a. What I want to say, they'll pick up a lot of defensive players in their draft. Okay. That's what I want to see them do. I want to see them pick up a lot of defensive players in their draft. And so, if they get Calvin Ridley on their team, they re-sign Evan Ingram. Trevor Lawrence is really starting to come on in this Doug Peterson offense. I think that Jacksonville is looking, to be really good going into this next year. And I could see them winning that division again, although I think they're going to get a challenge from the Colts, depending on who their quarterback is. But I don't see anybody else in that division making a move. I've lost faith in Tennessee. I think they've gotten old and had to get rid of some players. And
I just want to add this in. I just have to disagree with the Colts. I think it's still Tennessee and Jacksonville going to fight for that division. Not saying the Colts can't get there, though. I lost faith, because guess what? I lost faith in the Colts, and all what I'm saying is I've heard the same shit every year now, that the Colts are going to be good, the Colts are going to be that team out of the AFC, and every year it's been the same circling story with the Colts. They just been it's like they're in the field just spinning their tires. I mean, they got a chance. Who did they hire as their coach again?
The Colts, they got the offensive coordinator, Shane Steichen of the Philadelphia Eagles.
With him, I think he can get that team going. But it really depends on the quarterback for them. I mean, who are they really going to bring a quarterback? You think they're going to draft a QB?
Well, I think that they're going to draft somebody. I mean, Yeah, they've got a high pick. Let me take a quick peek here at who the draft pick. We've got our draft order here. I need you to let me share a screen.
Yeah, I got you.
Or I guess I could do it right here. They got the 4th pick.
Okay.
Okay, so they got the 4th pick in the draft. They're high enough up. Arizona doesn't need a quarterback technically. Now the Texans probably need a quarterback. The Colts need a quarterback. If the Seahawks want to draft for the future, they need a quarterback. If they stick with Ritter in Atlanta or they pick somebody up at 8, you're looking all the way down to 9 or maybe 11. I wasn't impressed with Malik Willis in Tennessee. Houston's at 12 again. So, if they don't get their man in with the 2nd pick, then they can always come back at the 12th pick. But I'm assuming that they'll take the quarterback and then a defensive player at 12.
Yeah. Now, since we got the draft board, we might as well end this show by talking about the combine and the quarterbacks and what you think you've seen. I want to say I thought I was young that was probably going to be the 1st pick, but that kid from Florida today, that kid from Florida in the combine,
Anthony Richardson impressed. He impressed with his measurables, but the video that I watched, the guy that I was impressed by watching him throw to receivers was Will Levis.
Yeah, Will
I
Levis
liked him. I am not a fan of Bryce Young, not because he's from Alabama, but because I didn't like Kyler Murray coming out. I don't like the size, the measurables. I think he's too short. I think that, he is, they make me think they're frail because they are not a big-bodied person. They take one big monster shot and they're going to be out.
Yeah.
I haven't seen much of C.J. Stroud, but of the guys that we watched, I liked Anthony Richardson and I liked Will Levis.
Actually, I just watched a video not too long before we started our show tonight. And I've been a big hypocrite of any quarterback coming out of Ohio State. Yes, obviously I'm from Michigan, so I'm gonna get a lot of bullshit because they're just gonna say I'm biased. Guess what? I'm not biased. I hate the school Ohio State because of the rivalry. I'll give you that. But coming into the NFL, I'm not gonna write off kids. You know what I mean? Like, I love Decker. Decker's from Ohio State. I love him at left tackle. I don't want him to leave Detroit. I want him to be here long term. I wasn't mad at that. But I never thought CJ Stroud was that good of a QB for the pro level. College, you can't really talk shit because he had a pretty good career at Ohio State. But I watched the video today, watching him throw the ball, and I got to admit, he was throwing some bombs, some 40-yard passes right to the receiver, and they look good. I'm still not sold on him, but if he can play with that arm in a pro level, it could be something. Another player I watched right after he was done throwing was Bennett from Georgia. I thought he was kind of like the hooker because he's 25 years old. He'd be one of the oldest prospects I think drafted in a draft. I mean, for a quarterback. And he was throwing some 40-yard bombs pretty too. That dude has an arm on him. So I'm kind of curious to see where this quarterback shapes out in the draft. Because is somebody going to be crazy enough to draft a 25-year-old Bennett from Georgia in the top 5 as their starter?
I don't think so. I think that there's a possibility that he gets drafted, in maybe the 3rd or 4th round. His measurables are not great. He's an older player, but, depending on what happens with Lamar Jackson, I mean, if he decides that he's not going to play on the franchise tag and they can't make a deal to trade him, or even if they can make a deal to trade him, his offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, is the former offensive coordinator at Georgia. So Bennett's going to know the offense. He could fall right into place there. They have a predominant running game in Baltimore, and he's got a few weapons to throw the ball to and could have more depending on who else is drafted or brought in during free agency. You know, he could step right in because he's an experienced quarterback. He's played multiple years in college, and he's played in big games. You know, and so I think you get a little bit of that, you know, Brock Purdy, you know, a guy who played a lot in college. This guy played a lot. He overcome obstacles. He may not be the long-term answer, but he'd be somebody that could come in and be serviceable, and maybe you find out you're wrong, and he really can be somebody that can be there for the long haul.
Exactly. I mean, who knows? I mean, obviously Baltimore's not going to not franchise tag Lamar, but
he don't have to play if he doesn't
but-
sign the contract.
that is
He'd
true.
say, nope, I want the guaranteed money. I'm sitting out.
But you know, that might not be a bad backup plan to, you know, put on your team for a backup for when Lamar goes and possibly gets himself hurt again. It makes a lot of sense. So, who's your next quarterback, you think? What quarterback do you think gets picked first? If you had to pick today, which quarterback do you think would
If I was
be the first
picking,
one off the board? If you were picking, or just what do you think will happen on draft day for that?
what do I really think is going to happen? Well, I've been
Yeah.
surprised before. Trubisky went higher than I thought he would. I think he's a serviceable quarterback. You know, Mahomes was a surprise. Deshaun Watson ended up later, you know, when it comes to some of these, you know, quarterbacks. I think if they do all the background and do it right, based on what I've seen, I think that Houston, I think everybody stands pat for the most part. Houston is going to take Young out of Alabama. I think Chicago will try to deal the pick, but the money is going to be too much. You know, for Houston, they're going to know they're going to get the pick, and other teams are not high enough on Young or Stroud to want to go up that high. I think Chicago drafts defensive player. Houston will end up taking the first quarterback in Young. Arizona takes a defensive player. And if it was me, if I was Indianapolis, I'd take Will Levis out of Kentucky.
He did look pretty good.
You know, and then as far as Seattle is concerned, they found their running back in Kenneth Walker. They've got two big-time wide receivers in Lockett and Metcalf. If they want to go ahead, if they believe in a quarterback, they got 2 first-round draft picks. Okay, if they believe in a guy coming in, sitting behind Geno enough, you know, I could see C.J. Stroud going to Seattle, and then
Honestly,
I think you get your linebacker in Detroit. There's your top 6 picks.
I think so too. But I think we might go corner at 6.
But if you trade for Jalen Ramsey, you won't need a corner.
Well,
you trade your second first-round pick for Ramsey, you won't need a corner. You'll be looking for that linebacker.
Oh, for sure, if that happens. I'm not 100% sold that's going to happen, so I'm planning for the draft probably 6 for corner, 18 for linebacker. But we'll definitely see by the time it gets here. we caught
Really? A couple guys think Stroud goes before Young.
I mean, I don't know, I would probably take Young over Stroud, but then again, from that video,
You already
I didn't get to
said
see Young.
you have an affinity for Ohio State quarterbacks not being very good.
But the only thing is changing it. In just a smidge is because I didn't get to see Young's. I didn't see the video on Young. I don't know how good he looked in the combine throwing the ball. I did see CJ Stroud where it made me stop there for a minute and like, okay, he's showing. But what I wanted to bring is if he goes to Seattle, I think that'd probably be the best thing for Ohio State quarterback to finally make it and break that bar in the pros. Just because Pete Carroll spent so much time in college, I think that would be a huge benefit for CJ.
Gives him a chance to learn and not be thrown into the fire.
Exactly. And you got a QB and you got a coach who's ran college and could, and in worst case scenario, could bring that system and make it a pro system if needed to be. Ron, I seen your comment. Ron thinks
Joey D'Angelo, that's the same thing I was thinking.
Stroud, but at the same time,
unathletic Kyler Murray.
But Ron, there's no need for Houston to trade Chicago. They're sitting at 2, Chicago's at 1. Why would they have to go to 1 to get CJ Stroud?
They don't.
Because the Bears ain't getting CJ Stroud. But then again, the Bears are GM of his own mouth said he's looking at all the quarterbacks and scouting very deeply. So who knows with the Bears? You might be right at the end of the day because it's the Bears. So that real quick before we end this, we mentioned earlier before we started up. What do you think is going to play out with the Georgia's defensive? Was he a defensive end, the one that has the rest warrant?
Yeah, well, I think he's a linebacker,
wasn't he? Okay, linebacker. I knew he was defense.
I just know he's a defensive player for Georgia. I didn't pay that close of attention to the whole thing, but basically him and some buddies were racing their cars after they won, the national championship. They screwed around and somebody got killed.
Yeah, it was somebody from the staff.
They're just I would say it's kids being kids, but you got somebody hurt. You got somebody hurt. Yeah. You got somebody killed. It's a bad deal. Nobody, as far as I know, is being charged with murder or anything. But it's going to be a legal hassle no matter what. There's going to be a lot of questions, and there's probably a chance that this guy here is going to lose some ground in the draft because of it, because now you've got questions about his character, questions about, legal issues. Is this going to be a pattern of behavior going forward? He will have to reassure teams that, this was just a one-time incident. He didn't know what got into him. They were just having some fun and somebody got hurt. Yeah, obviously he wasn't trying to hurt someone. Nobody wants to hurt anybody, really.
Yeah.
But, shit happens, and so now he's in trouble.
Well, see, what I read was the people who died, one was a staff member.
Do what now?
Another car, and the other one was a player. I said the 2 people who died in that car accident, one was a staff from Georgia.
Yeah.
And the other one was another player. So that's what makes it really even bad is you got a player dead, a staff member that died, and you left the scene of the accident and then came back and told the cops that you were just a couple blocks away and heard about the accident and came back on scene. And then they found out that they were drag racing. Now, I don't I don't think he gets charged for murder or nothing crazy like that, but he could be getting charged pretty hard.
He was
too.
charged with 2 counts,
for leaving the
misdemeanor
scene.
counts. According to Joey D'Angelo here, he says that Jalen Carter, who's the player we're talking about, had questions on his behavior before the accident happened, according to Mel Kiper, which, I mean, you know, if now you're looking once again, pattern of behavior. Is this guy going to be a problem? You know, once he gets drafted, these kids get money. And if they make mistakes, you know, you hand them the money. And the next thing you know, you've wasted your, you know, this right in the middle of basically job interview week here at the combine, that this is all going down. I don't think that is a coincidence, but, you know, I find it pretty interesting that all of this has come out this week.
Yeah. Well, I think it could be done on purpose, obviously, from the media and stuff. But honestly, I don't think it's just because of that. I think it's more because at first they bought a story. And I'm thinking now in the investigation, they've realized that they were street racing and he completely lied. Because the article I read that said he was on scene, he did talk to the cops when it all happened. But like I said, he told the cops that he was just a couple blocks away, heard about the accident, heard it was a teammate, and then came up on scene. So now you just put yourself in double jeopardy. You could have just been honest about it. Hey, look, man, we were drag racing being, you know, stupid, and here we are. You know what I mean? And if he has questionable behavior, I know I don't want him. I mean, obviously the Lions could use a couple players on defensive tackle, you know, or defense side of the ball, but I don't want him. And I want to be surprised.
I'm the kind of person, if I'm running a team and there are red flags of this nature, I would be leery of having him on my draft board. He'd be somebody that I would study him, you know, because obviously, you know, he's a highly touted player, but I don't think I would want to be the first one to have him. If it turns out later, you know, several years later that, you know, this was like an isolated incident and he becomes a free agent, then I would want to have some of this background information, but I don't think that I would be one that would draft him.
Exactly. And if the team's going to draft him, I would try to see if he slips to the 6th, 7th round if it was me.
It's all about value versus risk at that point. You know, there's no way that this guy gets past the 3rd round. You know, he's just too good of a player. I mean, some real ugly things would have to come out about this whole situation that would make him slip further than that.
Oh, for sure. I'm just saying, if Detroit was the team to take the shot, I would hope it would be 6th, 7th round, because I don't even want to lose a 3rd round pick for him coming to the league being stupid.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Because you lose a lot of value when you take a player in the first 3 rounds and then they get in the league and just do stupid things. We've seen it with Pac-Man Jones, ruined 90% of his career. He had questions all in the draft about his character. And then as soon as Cincinnati took him high, or not Cincinnati, but Jacksonville. Or no, it wasn't Jacksonville, it was Titans, my bad. The Titans took him, and he played maybe 3 full seasons, if that, for Tennessee, with all the suspensions he received. So, I mean, you've seen it too many times. And that's a crazy thing. And that's a crazy thing. And I think now college should do something like the NFL has. I think they need to come with the program to talk with these kids. Because all these kids are getting paid. And some of these kids are getting paid millions of dollars in these NIL deals. So now these kids got money to afford sports cars and stupid shit to get them in trouble. And, you know what I mean? You just got to be, you know.
He can't go to Oakland, Joey. It's Las Vegas now. He said he's going to be a Raider.
Hey, no offense to Joey. Joey's a good buddy Mine,
He can't be a
I
Raider. They
go all the
can't
time
afford him.
too.
They can't afford him. They're a broke franchise.
Oh,
The car wasn't going fast enough. He wasn't drunk enough to be a Raider.
hey, Raider. Honestly, if one player Vegas needs to stay away from, it would be him, because they're having trouble right now keeping their rookies they've drafted the last couple of years on the damn field.
That's what I'm joking about.
They got shit when their best receivers they drafted, going on a murder trial here.
Oh,
God knows when. Even though I heard he's working out to come back to the NFL while he's waiting on his trial, and I'm like, dude, who are you?
no way. Nope.
Like,
Nobody's touching that dude with a 10-foot pole.
oh, for sure. But the crazy thing is that he got an hour release from his house on his probation to go work out to get back in the league.
No. Ain't happening.
The judge allowed it, which was crazy, because I'm like, no one's gonna touch this kid. Like, maybe if somehow he gets found innocent, maybe. But we all know that's not happening.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, listen,
no
we
one's
put in
gonna run a
our
player
2 hours. We got one more bit here for me to throw up, and that is we got one more piece of info. See if I can make this work. And that is, we know what the first game of the year is going to be. We got the Hall of Fame game, August 23rd. It's the Cleveland Browns and the New York Jets, the Hall of Fame game. I'm going to get out of the way so you can read my graphic good.
Hall game.
Did it screw it all up?
It goes great. It's gone now. Yep.
It screwed it all up. Well, hell.
So now when you sit back down, now it's there. But
that's all right. Well, you got the Hall of Fame game between the Jets and the Browns. That means both those teams are going to get an extra week of preparation in advance of the 2023 season. Could see Aaron Rodgers there as the quarterback of the Jets. Deshaun Watson will be there for the Cleveland Browns. And here's something that I know. The Jets and the Browns actually played the very first Monday Night Football game in the history of Monday Night Football.
I didn't know that.
The rematch everybody's been waiting for 60 years. Chris, I had a good time tonight, buddy. Let's do it again next Sunday. I want to thank everybody for joining us for the Sunday Night Spectacular here with the 4th&Goal Sports Podcast. I am Big Dave from Picks with David.
And I'm Christopher Sarah Jr. with 4th&Goal Sports. Thank you for joining the night with us. Had a great show. David, I love Sunday nights. And for you guys to know, Tuesday is the next broadcast. I got a special guest in Ken Dobe, former sergeant in the military, big Bears fan. So I'm gonna interview him. We're gonna talk some Bears football, get some cool military stories, get all those angles, and we'll see what he thinks the Bears are gonna do this offseason. And then
they're gonna suck.
Most likely. But hey, we'll see what he got to say about that. And then the next show after that will most likely be with this guy, David, next Sunday. And we're keeping you covered. And we got more shows coming. This is just the beginning and just the start. And we'll be here all season long. Pretty sure we'll have David on more throughout the week once the season's rolling. And there's a lot more stuff to talk about, But anyways, you guys have a great night. Thank you again, David. Love when you come on the show. Have a good night, guys. Later.